Everyone. We're just waiting one more minute or a couple more minutes to make sure we have as many people as possible, and then we'll start. Okay. I think we can start with some of the preliminaries. So hi, I'm Roja. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the International Admissions Counselor at Reed. So I feel like I've talked to most, if not all of you already, email the international drop-ins, but it's good to see you all again. Before we start, I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. We're going to try to focus this on the international student experience. So for this particular meeting that we're having, we're not going to talk or address visa questions or financial aid questions. We technically can't talk about visa. I will put emails in the chat for you guys so that you can connect with ISS, who are the people that are in charge of visa services, as well as our financial aid email so that you guys can direct any financial aid questions you have to them. But for this particular student panel, we're going to just focus on student experience, if that's all right with everyone. So I'm going to put both emails in the chat right now. Feel free to email any questions you want to either one.
And hi folks, I'm joining as well. My name's Nell Scherfling. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm one of our admission counselors here in the office. I also went to Reed as a student. I graduated in 2020 with my degree in psychology. So I'm really happy to join you all tonight and to hopefully share a little bit more about the international experience.
I'm going to ask our 3 international student panelists to present themselves. Zach, would you like to start, and then Popcorn?
I'd love to. Hey everyone, I'm Zach. I use he, him pronouns. I am a junior English major here at Reed. I'm originally from Hong Kong, and I am Chinese Filipino. How about her going next?
Great. Hi, everyone. My name's Ha, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a sophomore here, and I'm very excited to say I just declared a major in math with a concentration in statistics. So I guess that's what I'm doing for the next 2 years of my life. Yeah, I'm from China, and I went to high school in the United States, specifically in the state of Illinois for 3 years. All right. Next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sajid. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a freshman studying maths. Like how I'm also planning to do a statistics concentration, and I work at the campus newspaper called The Quest, and I'm also working as an intern to the admissions office. I am really
I think we've lost Sajid for a second. Or is it just me? Is he frozen for everyone? Yeah.
Poor Sajid.
Oh no.
All right, well, while we're hoping his internet improves, we'd also like for all of our international students who are joining us, if you guys could write a quick introduction in the chat, that's really helpful so we can learn a little bit about you. So if you could let us know your name, what pronouns you use, where you're calling from, and what you're interested in terms of academic majors, that would be super helpful.
Sajid, are you back? There you are.
Yeah, okay. So did you get to listen to what I said?
Can you reintroduce yourself? You got
Yes,
cut
I'm
off
so sorry. Yeah,
halfway.
like for some reason my internet cut off. Hi everyone, my name is Sajid. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a freshman studying math stats, and I'm from Bangladesh. As you can see my flag at the back. And yeah, I'm really excited to I'm looking forward to knowing all of you. And yeah, okay, that's it.
Thank you guys for introducing yourselves, and thank you to everyone who will introduce themselves in the chat. Nell has put in some of the information that we kindly ask you to put if you guys want to and feel comfortable doing that. Hi, I see some people introducing themselves. Hello. So while you guys are introducing yourselves and writing in the information, I'm going to start with one of the first questions, if that's okay now. Do you mind? Just to get the ball rolling, we're going to start with a few questions for the panelists first, so that they can kind of introduce themselves and their experience at Reed. And then at the end, we'll open for questions from you guys, so that you can ask them specific questions and things that you would like to know. So just in starting out, and we can start with in the same order as we did with the introduction. So maybe Zach, you can start. What was your experience like as an international student coming to Reed?
I will admit my experience as an international student was somewhat different than everyone else here, I would imagine, because I actually missed international orientation. I misread it at some point and just did not attend. So I attended regular orientation, and it was a little bit disorienting, especially because within the first hour or two, I realized that I was around a lot of people who were not from out of America. And I went, oh, I came late, didn't I? But it was honestly very, very fun. I think what really makes Reed special for me is that people around are very accommodating and very interested in what you're doing. And that same core philosophy allowed me to very easily make a lot of friends during my first week or two at Reed, even as someone who would identify as rather introverted. In addition, I kind of got to meet everyone who I should have met during international orientation, because it just so happened that I had an international student as my next door neighbor. So I just went, hey, I kind of missed national orientation. Do you mind introducing me? And that worked out very, very well. So I'd say initially very odd, and then following that, surprisingly simple. In terms of everything following that, I've always felt supported in my interests, even as someone who is in kind of an odd situation as an English major, but also an international student, which isn't very common. I've always had people around me who are interested in what I'm doing, and are always asking about how they can best support me. So I'm very, very grateful for the people that I've met at Reed, and for these support systems that I do have.
So I'm very sorry that you missed international orientation. And just as a reminder to everyone, there is an international orientation before the general student orientation. It's the week before. I'm so glad that this came up, and we'll be sending you information about that soon. But thank you, Zach. How would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Just as I know, the international student orientation is really fun. And I planned last year's orientation, and I didn't plan time to plan this year's, but I plan to drop by. So yeah, if you see me again, say hi. Yeah, so my experience here, so I went to high school in the United States as an international student as well. And I was still kind of deeply immersed in the culture of where I'm from. So it is kind of very competitive, and ranking plays a very important part in basically everything. And as I was in the college search process, I just saw Reed, and they really jump out to me because it refuses to provide data for the national rankings of colleges. And that was just very surprising and also very refreshing at the same time, because I'm kind of sick of the system of rankings everything, and what's good for the standard population is also good for me. So Reed really appealed to me because it's so individualized and carrying a way that's not blending. Yeah, so after I came here, I think this is also very true, because everyone here is really kind of against the idea of the quality of an experience that's shaping your life being ranked. And here, people are really accepting, as Zach said, and very non-judgmental. And I kind of feel less of an international student here, because people here really see someone else as a combination of things they really want to present themselves as. So when people see me, it's not my accent or ethnicity that pop out to them, but rather how I speak, the choice of language, and also my interests as well. So yeah, here the only way you can be judged is if you judge someone else. So it's a very safe space if you're coming to the United States for the first time in your life, because it's just a very safe space. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to popcorn now to Sajid if you
Yeah,
would like.
of course. Just in case if my internet disconnects again, I would appreciate if you all continue, and then I could do it again. Okay, cool. My international experience has been really well so far. I chose Reed because pretty much the similar reason as Ha, that Reed doesn't participate in the ranking system. And the benefit of that is there are several benefits. I think that's kind of the discussion is beyond the scope of this webinar or the job session. But what I really felt was after coming to Reed that the atmosphere for growth was very strongly motivated towards learning and not as much to competition. So what happens is you go to a class and you're not competing your classmate for the highest grade. Rather, you're collaborating with your classmate so that you both learn, and your teacher doesn't really care about how much you perform better than the other person, rather how you're growing up as a process. I think that became very clear to me at the very beginning of my experience. My teachers were really accommodating because all international students have to take Hume 110, and Hume 1, I never took. So I'm from, I went to a military school back in Bangladesh, and I never had to study humanities. So what I felt was my friends, as well as my teachers, my conference leader, to be very specific, was very accommodating about trying to understand where I'm coming from, what kind of experiences shaped my learning process, and how that can be in alignment with the Hume curriculum. So that has been a huge help. Otherwise, without that help, I wouldn't have been able to properly enjoy and actually get something out of the Hume curriculum, which is like a big thing at Reed. So I'm also very grateful for that. I think Howells mentioned this, the international experience in the first week. It's really amazing. I had a beautiful time when I first appeared on campus. Like there were some other domestic students as well as international students. So we were all like doing hangouts outside Reed and planning. I mean, doing planned events inside Reed, and that was really, really good. Yeah.
Thank you, Sajid. I appreciate all of you starting out and answering. It's a broad question, I know, and so I appreciate your individual takes on what the experience was like in coming in. And so going off of that question, what has been the hardest or the biggest challenge that you've encountered in transitioning into the United States and into Reed in the same way, if it's one or the other? Does anyone want to volunteer to go first, or would you like to kind of go in the same order?
I went first last time, I'll go first again.
Thank you.
Of course. I'd say the biggest shift for me, the biggest challenge was just the lack of comfort in like knowing what would like be around me. A lot of the brands that I had associated with like being supermarkets weren't there. A lot of the foods that I had taken for granted were not there. And it was just like a very big culture shock in a lot of ways. I remember in particular, about a month, actually more like 3 weeks into being at Reed, I had to use a washing machine for the first time. Because back in Hong Kong, I washed all my clothes by hand in the bathtub. And having to use a washing machine, I did not know what was going on. So I had to grab my roommate and be like, hey, do you mind showing me how to use a washing machine? And it felt very embarrassing because it seemed like a very simple thing. And it turned out it was even simpler than I could have imagined. But he was very uncondescending about it, and it was just a very fun experience overall. I'd say what has really stuck out to me in terms of challenges as an international student is not being afraid to ask for help. I personally grew up in an environment where it was frowned upon to ask for help, and it was seen as a sign of weakness. And it took me a long time to realize that relying on other people is a core part of the Reed experience, and is something that you should be actively looking to do if there are things that you don't understand or things that you're having trouble with. And had I learned that a lot sooner, I think I would have encountered a lot fewer issues. So yeah.
Thank you. That's really generous of you to share. I my own first personal experience with the washing machine was pink clothes for like the rest of that first semester. It was super embarrassing. This is a true story. So thank you. Yes, learning new things is definitely one of the bigger challenges in moving anywhere and moving into college to start out with. How can I ask you to tell us what the biggest challenge was?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, the biggest challenge upon coming to America is certainly interacting informally with other human beings, because in the classroom the teachers speak very clearly and sometimes slowly, and they're always there to help you. At least I read. I hope you know that. Yeah, but while you're interacting with classmates and other people you just randomly encounter on the street, you don't know what they're going to talk about and what context or what kind of direction they're going to take you. And they speak in various regional accents, and they speak quickly, and they make references to things I don't know about. So it's really easy to feel kind of almost silly and unaccustomed to everything. Yeah, but I think it's certainly overcomable. I don't know if that's a word, sorry. Yeah, because I read, at least, I think you can feel free to think less about how others perceive you, and think more about how you can make the most out of the experience and being respectful of others and help them have the best experience they can. Yeah, so not only does this apply to informal interactions, but also conference style classes, because we have a lot of those. So in class, you don't have to think about whether my point is too basic or not politically correct. You can just think, this is my opinion and I'm fully participating in the present moment, so I'm going to say it and see what other people think of it to further my own knowledge and hopefully also theirs. So yeah.
That's really lovely. And I think also very universal in moving to a new place, trying to learn and to not feel like you're a stranger in a strange land, kind of, no? Kind of having to learn a whole new culture and explain yours to other people as well, and feel comfortable in expressing that is definitely a universal, I think, experience. So thank you for sharing that as well. And Sajid, last but not least.
Okay, so I also had trouble understanding how the washing machine works. So it took me a while. Also the espresso machine, I didn't know how that worked either. So my roommate taught me, like, she was very kind, and she taught the whole thing to me, and it was amazing. So the biggest challenge that I faced was trying to sit tight with the fact that I'm going to attend classes where I do not care about grades. And by that, I mean, I do care about my grades, but the class I'm attending does not necessarily base itself around grade. So there's this, I won't say it's a stereotype, but I think it's a custom in my country or in South Asia in general, that you attend classes because you want to pass the class, you want to get good grades, you want to attend exams because you want those grades to be reflected on your transcripts. At Reed, I felt like the first classes I attend were nothing like that. It was the first thing that I submitted when my first submission at Reed was a humanities paper. It was the first humanities paper or any paper I wrote in my life. And I was very happy with the product because we discussed the whole thing in my class or in the conference. Like, people gave me their opinions on what I thought, and that was properly reflected on the paper. So that was the first intellectual product of written down in a paper and that I submitted. And it was a bit hard for me to imagine that I'm not doing it for grades, that I won't see my grades reflected on that paper, or at least not if I request for it. And as far as I know, no one requests for grades here. So that kind of feels very weird. Like, how does that work? And I soon began to realize, I think that is something really, really amazing. As soon as I realized that I do not have to worry about grades, I can essentially do experiments about how I like to go with things. Which form of writing do I appreciate more, or which form of writing does make me feel better about my arguments? And I think that was very crucial for how I learn now, or how I would continue to learn in the distant future, is because I know that whatever I'm doing is actually a reflection of whatever I have learned and has little to do with how I'm graded. I think that was something that I struggled with a bit, but I think that essentially made significant influence on how I learn right now, because I do not essentially know what my grades are. I do care about the grades, but I don't essentially worry about them. I know that the grades are there, but I'm more focused on how much I'm learning and how much fun I'm having in the process, how much I appreciate the process. That's one of the things. The other thing was the interaction between students and teacher. I mean, the professors and students, because I come from a school where teachers are like gods, literal gods, and you're like very far from them. But like here, I remember attending my math class, and like I asked my professor a question, and he sat down next to me and like took my copy and started explaining in my own copy. I was like very surprised that something like this could happen. Actually, I never saw this happening. So that what essentially wasn't a challenge, but it took me a while to understand that things are very much like that teachers are essentially there because they're interested in what I'm doing, interested in what I'm learning and what they're teaching. So that's something I also would like to mention in the process.
I think both valid things to the read experience, specifically in this case, the no grades, that takes away kind of this competitive with yourself and with others edge to learning, and it makes it just this experience of community learning, right? And learning as an act of enjoyment rather than an act of stress or worry, which I think is really valid. And also horizontality in learning and having a close relationship with professors where you actually feel encouraged to ask questions and talk, which I also think is something very characteristic, right? I'm going to throw the ball to Nell to ask the next question, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for our panelists, we would love to hear a little bit about a unique experience that you've had at Reed. Certainly, Reed has a whole lot of traditions that we love to celebrate each year. So maybe it's a particular tradition or just a fun class that you've gotten to take, an event that you've been to, but anything that's been particularly unique about your experience.
I guess I'll say it again. It's not just be because it's in recent memory, but what stands out to me would be the Doyle Owl fight, which happened not even a month ago. So as a Reed tradition, there's this 300-pound Doyle Owl made of all sorts of things. And every year, whoever has will bring it onto campus and different teams will fight over it. Eggs are thrown, flour, mayonnaise. It gets very messy, and it's kind of just like a massive scrap that usually lasts for hours on end as different teams try to get the owl into a car or a van and drive away. I was actually successful this year, but an odd surprise was that there are two different owls currently in circulation at Reed. There's a fake owl and a real owl, but they're both roughly 300 pounds. It was just like a very interesting, odd, and fun time with a lot of my friends, a lot of drama too, just kind of fighting over this shocked looking owl on the Great Lawn as people looked on in abject horror. It was a good time.
Nice. I guess in the sequence I'll speak next. Sorry, no.
Yeah, I just want to add, while Ha and Sajid are answering their questions, I would also encourage you all to write any questions that you have in the chat. We'll be opening the floor to you all right after this question, so that might just help to get some ideas out there. Please take it away, Ha.
Yeah, so just a clarifying question for Zach. How many owls are in circulation right now? I heard at least 3, but okay, maybe I just have a lot of misinformation. All right.
There were 2 that were fought over. I'm not sure if there's a 3rd one in hiding somewhere, but I know that
This
there are
is
at
very
least 2.
important.
Yeah.
You got to figure out, right, which one's the real one. Sajid, maybe you need some investigative journalism.
Yeah, so a unique tradition I experienced here is kind of a tangential tradition because it is working as a nuclear reactor on campus. So yeah, we do have a nuclear reactor on campus, and this is the only research reactor in the United States that's run by undergraduates. So it's kind of a very representative experience. It also employs more gender minority people than basically any other nuclear reactor in the world combined. So good for Reed, bad for the world. Yeah. Here, operating reactor is very open to everyone because you don't have to be a STEM major to do anything with it. For example, our 2 supervisors this year are a linguistics major and an anthropology major. So a lot of different perspectives. Yeah, for me, the most fun part is, of course, the science, but besides that, it's a community here. Because last year, I'm what people call a pandemic freshman because we came here, our first year at Reed is actually the pandemic heavy year. And it was kind of isolating for me because I'm also very introverted and kind of scared of human beings in general. Yeah, but as a reactor, we got to meet a lot of nerdy people and have a very safely or guaranteed nerdy community. And if you study with someone and talk about a very cool concept in nuclear science, it's just impossible to not bond over it. And at the night of our NRC licensing exam, so that's National Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So they give us licenses to operate the reactor as undergrads. Yeah, that night we just stayed basically the whole night talking about how our hopes and dreams and what we hope to do to impact the future of humankind. And the next day we have a very big Hume paper due, and none of us actually starting on the paper, but still I think the experience is really worth it because we really got to connect. And we students care a lot about the Hume paper. So if you choose something over writing it the night before it's due, he really says something.
I think the Doyle fight, I do think that is one of the most hilarious thing that I've ever seen in my life. I have never seen people fight over two, but they're really important to the Reed community, and they have very strong significance to the history of Reed. I do have, I think the quest did some investigation into its history, where it came from, who made it, and what happened like surrounding it. There are some, I think there's one Quest article I could find out and I could link it in the chat. But my finest experience was the thesis spread, which I think I haven't been to any, I'm not pretty sure how it's done in other colleges, but here I think thesis is something that Reed students take very seriously. And because they take it very seriously, after they're done doing their thesis, they burn their thesis in front of the library. And that was such a hilarious experience. And it was a spring fall. I remember wearing just a very thin shirt, and it was very cold because I imagined that it wouldn't be as cold. Portland weather is never imaginable. But that being said, I like everyone was chanting around the fire, and there were people distributing food and then running around the campus, and it was wild, it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I think that's one of the things.
Thank you, Sajid. Your story brings us to the first question in the chat, actually, in terms of weather. I'm going to go question by question, and we'll try to get through as many of them as we can. If something repeats itself, or if there's something that we can just answer internally in the chat, I'll ask our student panelists, Nell and me, we'll try to answer it there. But otherwise, I'll read them out loud and see if someone has the answer. So how did you get accustomed to the weather? Any advice? I think that's directed at you, Sajid. You were the one that was mentioning weather.
I have a terrible sense of weather. I do not know what to wear when. So because I was mostly always told what to wear back in high school, like for 6 years, and that's why I always had to rely on that, especially. So after coming here, and you cannot imagine how Portland weather works. It's a sunny day and you're having fun. Like 5 minutes later, it might start snowing and you don't know why. and it's, I don't know, but that being said, you can always be prepared. What one very useful thing to do is bringing on boots, which you can wear during when it's raining. It rains a lot in Portland, so it can be something very useful. I did not bring boots, and it made me suffer. Um, so that thing. The other thing is it gets cold, but it's not as cold. Like it doesn't freeze as much as New York or the other states. It's a decent weather, but it rains a lot. So I think bringing an umbrella or raincoat can also be useful. You can also buy it from here. It's fine. So yeah, and about accommodating with the weather, it took me a while because like I think it's coming from Rubaiyat. Yeah. So in South Asia, I think the weather is a bit wet, or the humidity is a bit higher than what it is in Portland. It gets very dry at some points. So I had to struggle a bit with that. I had to shower for thrice a day, and that was horrible. So yeah, but it doesn't take much long for you to actually find comfort in the weather, because once you get some comfort, you start like craving for the rain when it's a rain or something. But it was a very sunny day today, so I don't know how to feel about that.
Ha or Zach, do you have any other advice for weather? Or do you think Sajid covered it all?
Yeah, I think Sajid covered it all, but just an attitudinal thing. So be open to the full range of life experiences. You're in Portland, so Portland's rain is kind of unavoidable. So maybe just embrace it. Yeah, I used to think getting my shoes wet in the rain is absolutely the worst thing that can ever happen to me. But now I'm trying to adjust how I feel about it. It's actually not that bad.
Getting used to rain, one of the big things in Portland. So I'm going to move to the next question. Can you balance your academic life with your physical health, like having time to practice sports?
I'm gonna answer this one if that's okay. In my experience, yeah, it's generally very easy to keep a balance between academic work and physical health. I generally lift about 5 times a week for about 10 to 14 hours per week, and it doesn't really impact my social life or academic life in a negative capacity. If anything, I'd say it improves it. I've met a lot of friends in the gym, and whenever I am stuck on an assignment, I find that being in the gym helps me a lot with clearing my mind and just approaching a problem at a different angle. In terms of the resources you have at Reed, we do have several informal sports teams. We operate on a anyone can join any team basis, so it's very, very easy to be included. We also have a mandatory PE system with a lot of different variations of participant PEs. So it's very easy to get involved with really anything you're interested in. Yeah.
Thank you. In the interest of time, just to go to another question, I'm going to move to how is religious life at Reed like, or what is religious life at Reed like?
I could answer that question. Okay, so it's because Reed has like the amount of international students who represent different countries, it's huge. I think currently the number goes to around 52, I think, if I'm correct. And that means we have a large religious representation on campus. And I identify as a Muslim. I was born a Muslim, and I was grown up to be a Muslim. And I think there are a few other people I know who are also Muslims. And currently it's Ramadan, and I know that this Muslim community, they have a very close-knit tie to each other. We have iftar like every day. Yeah, we didn't miss iftar for.
Oh no, we're losing Sajid again. Okay, we will give Sajid a moment. For the sake of time, it looks like our next question. Oh, coming back.
I was frozen. Sorry.
You're here. You're just saying how you haven't missed a single night of iftar.
And because it's like after a whole day of fasting, I think everyone gets very tired, and it's hard to even make your own iftar. So I think the Commons does a good job in giving out the halal meals for the iftar, and they prepare for and they also keep the sehri, which is also important for fasting, that you have at the after midnight. So it's also available at the marketplace, which is a supplement to the Commons. So I think even though there aren't as many Muslims, but I think because they're strongly connected, I think it's worth mentioning the person who organizes this. It's Sarah. Sarah is from Morocco, and she's amazing. She basically organizes all these events and trying to keep the Muslim community alive. And I think that's very common for other religious activities, such as Jewish experiences, and as well as Christian activities.
Thank you so much for answering that, Sajid. I'm going to lump the two next questions into one. I think that they might be able to go together. How do you feel being so far away from home, and how often do you travel home?
Yeah, I think I'll answer. So I haven't really gone home since the summer of 2018, and I don't feel great about it, but I think I'm surviving well so far, because being away from home doesn't mean you have to feel like you're away from home. I think for a period of time, I was too busy with academics and also a lot of things happening on campus to really connect with my parents. But I think it's very important to set up a sort of tradition to check in at least every week to still keep the familial bond alive. Yeah, because every kind of relationship really needs tending to still thrive. Yeah, it might feel strange at first to set up an appointment to talk to your parents, but for me, it's very helpful. Yeah, also being away from home doesn't mean you can only have one home, because I'm really trying to make friends here and foster very deep friendships, so that I feel like I'm also at home here, and the people I associate with kind of feel like family. Because I think it's really important to not to limit yourself to where you were born, but also you decide to come to read and you're excited for it. And I think it's a best practice to really make the most out of it.
To quickly add to that, I think to students who do not go home for summer or winter, I know that some of my friends asked their professors if they could work with them because they're not going home. They would like to work, and the professors were super accommodating. They would give a list of people they can reach out to. I know my econ professor gave me a list of 25 people I can reach out to. She reached out to a few people for me personally, because I want to stay here for summer and do some work or do some research. And I know that I received tremendous support for that. So that's one of the reasons I haven't had the opportunity, or I do not plan to go home for summer. It's partly because I enjoy what I'm doing right now. And however, it sometimes feels a bit empty inside that you haven't seen your family for a while, but that's a bit different for me. I stayed 6 years away from my family and it wasn't as hard. So yeah, that's that.
You're more used to it, I guess. Zach, do you have any personal?
Yeah, sure, I'll chip in. I'm in a very unique situation, given that my family moved away from Hong Kong shortly after I came to read. But I would say I've gone back home roughly 2 times in 3 years, being that I've gone back one time during freshman year summer, and I'm planning on going back to the Philippines this time during this summer. But I would say, like her said, the most important thing is establishing a regular means of communication. And like Sajid said, talking with the people around you and establishing those connections so that if you are staying here over breaks, you can definitely find work and my community with everyone else here. So yeah.
And I know that another resource that we often have for international students is to be placed with a host family in the surrounding Portland area, where you can, go have a meal together, maybe travel with them on a trip. Have any of you guys interacted with your host families? Is that an experience that you've had?
I think because of COVID, it's currently not a thing, but we're working on bringing it back.
ISS has been working all year, and they are trying to set it up not for this early year for the summer, but they are trying to bring it back for next summer, for the next class to come in and to have the program running again.
Yeah, I just remember hearing such great experiences from other international students. We also have a question here. Do you have any experience with the Fab Lab, which I believe is kind of our physics shop with all of our machines, perhaps? I'm seeing some confused looks from our resident STEM majors. So I'm going to say no, we do not have any experience with the Fab Lab.
If you email, I'm going to write in the chat, we have a write a ready email where you can email students that work in the admissions office. And I'm sure someone will be able to speak to that and give you a bit of their experience. I'll put that email in the chat as well in a minute. We have another question after. Do you guys feel somehow uncomfortable not speaking your mother tongue for such a long period of time? It's a good question.
I could answer that. No, there is a Bangladeshi professor on campus, and every time I see the professor and he speaks to me specially, he insists that I do not speak to him in English. He's a linguistics professor, and his name is Samir, and super nice guy. I met him on a chai night. So chai night is a small festival where you have genuine tea, which is very popular in South Asia. And it's made with milk, and he was there, and I kind of could guess from his appearance he was Bangladeshi, and I reached out to him, and he said yes, he's from, I mean, he was born here, but he identified as Bangladeshi. And I talked to him today that I'm going to cook a few things, and he gave me a few suggestions for a few recipes. So I send him my emails in my own language, so that's very fun. Since he's a linguistics professor, he also teaches a class in South Asian languages, which I'm strongly looking forward to taking. So that's my experience of being able to speak my language. I'm not sure about Jack or Pa.
How about you guys? Do you have anyone to speak your language with, or have you gone for long periods?
I think being an international student actually is changing my linguistic system, because I'm not kind of a little more comfortable with English than my native language, but I still do speak it with my parents, of course. And also I have friends who are taking Chinese classes, so I can still speak with them and practice. And I also enjoy the process of learning more about my own language by teaching people structurally how to best approach it.
Ironically, and to my great shame, I am Chinese Filipino and cannot speak any Filipino dialects or Chinese fluently. I can speak them both very brokenly. And I'm also an English major, which is another level of irony. So I can't really answer this question, but I certainly can say that I talk a lot more than I should.
So I'm not seeing new questions in the chat. I have some other questions that I would like to ask you guys. So do you have any clubs or organizations that you are involved with? They may be international oriented or just anything else that has helped you join the community at Reed or integrate better?
Jack or how do you want to go first?
Sure. I'd say in my case, the biggest thing would be the Reed College Reader Review, which is an annual piece that comes out based around art and poetry. There's also some prose. It's basically just a big accumulation of art created by Reed students during that year. And it's a very good opportunity to meet with people who are also in the art sphere. I know that most of the people we have here today are interested in majoring mostly in STEM. But what's cool about Reed is that there's a lot of STEM majors and majors outside of the humanities who are also involved in the arts in some capacity. And even if you aren't interested in making art, it's a very good way to get involved with other people who are interested in looking at art and critically reviewing it and trying to help others who are in that space. So yeah.
Thank you, Zach. Ha or Sajid, do you have any clubs, organizations that have helped you?
Yeah, I'd say it's always also a good idea to join a workspace because you can also gain experiences with your profession, with your, I don't know, sorry, career preparation, also enrich your resume and also talk to people and make some money. Yeah, so as I talked about a little before, I do work as a director and it's very great in initiating me into the mysterious community. And also it's very helpful to join an academic society. So I'm a member of the Society of Physics students. Yeah, so it's kind of a very informal but also informative community because we are all there because we have a common interest, which is physics. And then it's very easy to bond with people if you have some sort of common interest. And if you're majoring in something, then you might be really interested in that. So yeah, I know we have a Society of Chemistry students as well. And also every department here has at least an informal organization. So I think you're connecting with people from the same major as you is also a very nice and supportive experience.
I would like to take from where Ha ended. I think it is very helpful to have a community to surround yourself with. It does two important things. First, you kind of immerse yourself in a field that you might not have been interested before, but you might find new interest in that. And the second thing is the community you find actually shapes the kind of experiences that you are about to have. That has been very true for me. So I was very interested in writing before even coming to Reed, but I did not know whether I liked journalism or not. So I gave it a shot. I showed up to one of the Quest editorial night. Quest is the weekly campus newspaper, and I showed up to their one editorial night, and it's very open, and like they're all seniors or some of them are very juniors and much more senior than I am. But I showed up, and the conversations were so appealing because everywhere we were basically discussing very normal things, but they were discussing things of global importance and of they were not as secretive, but very information that not a lot of people have access to, and that felt really compelling to me, like a group of people who are always discussing these kind of things, and I felt instantly hooked. And I ran for the election, and I became I was chosen to be a Quest editor by the student body. It's a student body elected position, and I'm currently serving as an editor for the Campus Quest. It's a fulfilling job, even though it requires a lot of time because journalism is hard. You have to run your sources, you have to build trust, build people's trust. You have to gain their trust so that they start actually believing what you're saying. And it's also about making connections to different people so that they reveal information to you that they would not reveal to other people. So that's useful. I have been involved in several investigations regarding different type of stuffs, including the Student Senate or maybe other places. And I think that was very useful because it reflects the openness of the community and how much it values free speech. And we eventually, what happens is we hold people accountable, and that process of accountability is very important and is upheld by the Quest. I think having that mindset in mind, it helps me go to sleep at night thinking that I'm doing something that has a larger impact that I could have before. So that has been useful for me.
Thank you, everyone, for your sharing your experience in terms of clubs, organizations. I think, yes, joining not only something that you're comfortable with and that you know about already, but trying your hand at new things that'll challenge you academically, but also put you in contact with new people, new friends, is a way of enlarging your community as well as knowledge and learning experience. So good advice from everyone. We have a question. Have you socialized outside of Reed with students from the University of Oregon or other schools at all? Do you have the chance to kind of mingle with the community?
Yeah, I have a little bit, but not specifically with other universities, college students. Geez, my English is crumbling for some reason. Yeah, because I'm going to seek an internship with our CLBR, so Center of Life Beyond Reed, and the person there connected me with a Reed alum called Brittany. She works at the Human Services Research Institute, and she's working on individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I got to talk to her and learn her research and also her colleagues, because they have a very wide range of expertise, and they're also kind of very relatable as human beings because they work in a nonprofit sector, and they are really similar to Reed students because they really seek to build on deeper understanding of the human being or human mind, and then improve how the world actually is according to it. So yes, if you actively seek out experiences off campus, then you certainly can. But Reed is also very diverse in all regards, so you can't really get bored here socializing.
Thank you. Kind of, as I don't see any more questions in the chat, in closing, do you have one final piece of advice that you would give, that you would have liked someone to give to you before coming to Reed or to the United States? Just a tip or a trick, something that has helped you in general terms. I see you all looking at the ceiling. Go for it, Zach.
Okay. Act more socially competent and confident than you actually are. This is something in particular aimed with introverts, as I am. I've met a lot of very interesting and very, very cool people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, from acting a lot more extroverted than I actually am. And it's really hard to put yourself out of your comfort zone, especially in an unfamiliar environment, but it does pay dividends.
That's great advice.
Sorry, mine's kind of similar. Yeah, do be extroverted, but don't be afraid to show you're vulnerable, because people are naturally drawn to human beings they consider real, and really especially really values authenticity, and people appreciate each other for who they are, not how well they want to conform to what is considered good generally. So I'd say be extroverted, put yourself out there, but don't try to be someone who you aren't, while still being open to having your experience change you.
Another solid piece of advice. Thank you, Ha. Sajid, no pressure.
I think Jack and Hop covered it very well.
Amazing. Nell, any advice from you or anything you'd like to say?
I think just be open to new experiences, be willing to, show up to a club meeting because it just looks interesting and exciting, even if you don't have anybody to go to it with. And yeah, I think Reed's a place where there's just so many students with their own curiosities, and it just takes, showing up to that meeting or starting a conversation with someone else to just find a new interest or a new friendship. So just keep an open mind.
True. And also pack some non-perishables of your favorite food so that you have comfort food for the first few months that you get here, so you don't feel so far from home. That always worked for me. I really want to thank our three lovely, lovely panelists for being so generous with their time and with their experiences. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that all of our international students, admitted and waitlisted, etc., students also appreciate it very much. I don't know if we can put emojis in the chat, but can we get some applause for our students? I don't know. I don't see the applause, but we're assuming that there's applause. I'm sending
Thank you also, Ha, Zach, and Sajid, for coming and sharing your experiences. Really appreciate your time. Again, if there's any other questions, you're welcome to email our office and one of our current students can get back to you.
I'm going to put the emails in the chat again. Please feel free to send any questions that you didn't have time to send or that you didn't feel comfortable asking. We will get back to you. Sorry, I'm sending you the financial aid and ISS. I want to send you the international admissions email. Also, if you have questions for ISS or financial aid, but we will make sure we get back to you with any answers to the questions that you have. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions and your participation. We really appreciate that as well. And we hope to see you and welcome you soon and be able to actually meet you in person. I'm going to say goodbye. Have a great night, day, wherever you are in the world. Have a great rest of your day, guys.